the offering of art is to collaborate in making meaning.
Yeah.
Right. It's an invitation for the audience to make meaning on their own terms. But I can tell you what I was thinking,
Yeah.
but it's not, it doesn't preclude other readings.
Okay.
You see, I don't think my reading is the only one.
That's
I
great.
never think the artist's meaning is the only one, because once the work is out of the artist's hands, the world will take over.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it would probably have been different if you have sold it to some institutions in the US, and now it's in France, so it's probably a different way of exposing it also.
Do you think in France people are more likely to read it as saying that the American empire needs to be dismantled?
Probably it's easier for us to have this point of view because it's not concerning us. So,
well, we think the American empire should be dismantled too.
Yeah, that's what I understood reading all your texts. But
I mean, I would probably say that about any empire.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, see, before I made this piece, I spent many years researching agricultural systems, and especially the industrial agriculture that the American model of industrial agriculture, which is being exported. I know there are many multinationals involved. It's not just American, but a lot of this was kind of engineered in the US. And what I'm talking about is fossil fuel intensive agriculture. They use fossil fuels for the machinery, for the chemicals, to make synthetic fertilizer. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of natural gas. So the whole system uses a lot of fossil fuels. It's dependent on fossil fuels. And it's also, I don't like about it that it's dependent on chemical companies. It's toxic. It's a toxic system, which is perverse, because this is our food. Now, why would we put poison, pesticide, herbicide, fungicide into the environment where we grow our food? And so it's a particular idea of nature that somehow we are separate, that we can poison our environment and it won't affect us, which is very, well, it's plainly foolish. It doesn't make any sense. It's irrational. It's really irrational. Although people might talk about it as a rationalized system because it's like the factory, right? You know, you have monoculture where you grow only one crop at a time. You have fields and fields. Where I live in Chicago, outside of the city, are fields and fields of soy and corn.
Okay.
And it's a monoculture. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, it's just that the soil is only making to grow soy or corn, nothing else. Right.
Right, exactly. And this way of growing makes the crops more vulnerable to pests and to pests. So when you grow a lot of different crops together, you have more natural protection.
It's like permaculture, huh?
It's like what?
Permaculture, we call it in France, when you mix like some tomatoes and then under it you put basils. And
then, like polyculture.
Yeah, so I guess it's the same.
For instance, so this whole system, I also studied it in Argentina, where they have converted all the almost all the arable land into genetically modified soy. And it's their economy depends on the export of this soy, but it has not been good for the country because they use way too much herbicide, glyphosate, or otherwise called Roundup.
Yeah.
You've heard of this, I'm sure.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And it's, when they first marketed it, they said, oh, it breaks down really fast in the soil and becomes non-toxic. But we have found since then that it's actually very poisonous. It's a carcinogen. It ruins the soil biology, the creatures that live in the soil. And so I was critiquing that for years, and I grew tired of just critiquing. I think critique is important, but it's not the end, because you have to follow it with proposals for different systems. And so I started to research agroecology.
Yes.
And an ecological approach to farming. Also, I should say, the industrial system is an extractive system. It's like extraction. It's like it's like mining. You take out the nutrients and you never replenish them in the soil, right? Except with synthetic fertilizer, which one thing about synthetic fertilizer, there's nothing for it to bind to in the soil. So when there are rains, it washes out into the rivers. And it's a toxic problem to have too much nitrogen in the rivers, because it feeds different kinds of organisms that take over and take all the oxygen out of the water, and other species can't live there. So there's also now an idea of regenerative agriculture, where you are regenerating the soil.
Yeah.
And what I learned, I studied soil biology, all the creatures and the life cycles that live in healthy soil, because if you want to grow food without poisons, without pesticides and herbicides, you have to nurture the soil. You have to make your soil healthy. And one way to do that is to restore it with organic matter, like compost.
Okay.
So compost becomes very important, and it's a way of giving back to the soil. You know, for artists who really like to do a lot of research, for me, I think the big question is form. So I don't know, I just got this idea that I wanted to compost the American flag. And so I made a big worm bed. It's 5 feet by 9 feet in my basement, and up on a table, a very big table. And I put some, just what we call substrate. I think I used coconut fiber.
Okay. So
under where the worms it's like a bed for the worms.
Okay.
And so I put a lot of worms in there, and then I laid the flag. Then for like 4 or 5 months, I put the kitchen scraps on top of the flag. And it had
were only from vegetables and fruits, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. And these vegetables and fruits, were they special vegetables or fruits? Or
No. Anything you would do. Do you ever do composting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anything you would put in your compost, except
Okay.
you don't put citrus because
Yeah, because it's
that's
too
not good
active.
for the worms. Yeah, it's I guess it's too acidic. It makes them really thin and then they die. So it was just a general kitchen compost, and the flag had to be cotton, and it's not so easy to find cotton flags. Most
Yeah.
of the flags are nylon, but the worms will eat the cotton because it's an organic material.
Yeah.
So I just let the worms do the work for those months. And you can see by the way I did it, I kind of left the edges
Yeah.
because I wanted there to be a recognizable remnant, right? And then, as you know, the name is Proposal for a New American Agriculture, because what I'm saying is to use organic methods is my proposal, and use things like compost and worms, organisms.
Okay.
Because the thing with the compost, it's full of organisms. You know, in economics, there are these things called externalities. In businesses, they have their costs and profits.
Yeah.
And they have their accounting
Mm-hmm.
methods. But there are all these costs that they leave out, like the cost to the environment, the cost to the health of wildlife, the cost to the health of the birds, the cost to the health of people. And they're not, the costs of poisoning our environment and poisoning our bodies is not calculated in the cost and profits, right? So after I composted the flag, I had this wonderful compost, and the externalities were just this compost, and I had a beautiful garden that year. That's part of the point, is that there's no toxic waste when you're using compost. And I've made an effort not to produce in my artwork more toxic waste.
Yeah, okay.
You know, in general, because when I made this work that I did for the Documenta 13 about soil, and I made these soil ingots, I didn't put anything toxic in them to hold them together. I found other methods to make them cohere, to make them stick together. Because I just, you know, what if no one wanted to buy that piece and no one wanted to take care of it? We could just compost it.
Yeah.
You know, we could just return it to the soil and it would be good. You know, people are always saying that, oh, but we need industrial farming to feed the world. Well, number one, I think it's an imperial notion that we are going to feed the world, when right now the majority of the world's food is produced by small farmers, subsistence farmers, and we don't give them any credit. It's just a way of justifying imperial invasion of corporations to come in. And what's happening now is really, really distressing, that all these like sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, retirement funds, investment firms are buying up farmland in all parts of the world to create monoculture and export cash crops, you know, and they're kicking indigenous people off the land people who have farmed there for generations. And it's called land grabbing.
Mm.
It would mean a real overhaul of our system, you know, to set it right. But we have to at least start to build the paths toward a different system, right? So that's what I was thinking.
And you talked about 3 pieces. So you were talking about the flag, the installation, and there is something else that is linked.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant I'm making 3 flags.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
3 different flags that have been composted by worms.
Ah, so the 3 flags were composted already.
Well, the third one, I did it, but I let it go too far.
Okay.
And there was really almost nothing left of the flag. So I have to do that one again. But, you know, sometimes people say I'm making an edition, but they haven't even finished the edition yet. But there is a second one that has been circulated. In fact, I can't remember who I loaned it to last. I have to find them. They're in Cleveland, a museum in Cleveland. I need to contact them and get them to send it back to me. But that one has been shown in a couple of places. At first, when I first had the idea, there was a museum in Chicago that asked me to propose a project. And my first proposal was, I wanted to set up the worm bin in the museum.
Okay.
And have it be composting in the museum.
Mm.
But they wouldn't get close to that because they don't, of course, as you know, they don't want any organisms in their museum.
Of course.
And they were very afraid. I think they may not have wanted to, you know, in the US, the treatment of the flag can be very controversial.
Yeah.
People, there have been some iconic works that caused a lot of controversy about American flag. I mean, almost every session of Congress, some group gets together, some group of representatives and tries to make a law against desecration of the flag, and they never get enough people to pass it, but it's something they can generate controversy about if they want. And this one has shown in the US, but it never, I think people are getting more relaxed about the flag. Maybe not, I don't know.
And yeah, one of my questions was, how did you get in contact with the Frac Lorraine? How did you sell it to France? Did they contact you or you?
I think someone was on their board who recommended them to look at my work.
Yes.
I did not reach out to them.
Okay.
I'm not very good at selling my work.
Yeah, so they contacted you and you said, okay.
Yeah, I was happy to sell it because, you know, for a lot of reasons, because then it will circulate, because I know the Fracs like to circulate the work, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And that they would take care of it. So of course it's nice to sell work to an institution that's not going to just put it in storage forever, you know. So they did show it. How did you come across it?
For my thesis work, I had to choose several points about a piece of art I wanted to have. And the 3 points I have were contemporary art, feminine artist, and alive, if possible. And textile, of course. So basically, I just looked at the Frac Lorraine because they really have a feminist collection, and yeah, I mean, it's one of it's one of the only collections in France that is almost half men, half women.
Ah, I didn't even know that. Thank you for telling me.
Okay, because actually I'm gonna do some analysis on the rests there are but now it's like super dry and I don't know. So I'm planning to make compost myself and take a cotton piece and see how it gets destroyed, because I don't really
Great.
know what are the steps of it, you know. I
Yeah,
really
that's
want to know
great.
chemically what's happening, because it's part of my work also to be able to
Mm-hmm.
chemically analyze these things. So I'm planning to
Mm-hmm.
do it again, but if you had pictures of yours, it would be nice to have a comparison.
Of
Yeah.
course. I didn't wash it. It has compost
Yeah.
remnants on it, and
Yeah.
it should not be wet.
No, it's not going to be washed.
Okay, it should never be wet because it probably has organisms in it that are dormant.
Dormant.
They go to sleep.
Okay.
Because my soil science teacher, her name is Elaine Ingham. She's very brilliant. She told me this story about she was given a piece of textile from a mummy.
Yes.
From an Egyptian mummy.
Yeah.
And she put it in water and she put it under the microscope.
Yes.
And she could see the organisms started to move. So they have been sleeping for like 2,000 years or 4,000 years or whatever it is.
This is what we learn also.
Really?
Yes, that then when they are back to their comfort zone, so with enough humidity and enough warmth, like if it's hot enough outside, then it can comes up again. So that's why when you have mushrooms in old collections, you can never get rid of them, except if you control the humidity and the heating.
You can keep them quiet.
Yeah, you can keep them quiet, but you can never let them go because there are some spores, I don't know how you call it, but COD. Yeah.
The spores.
Yeah, the spores are always there and they're really small and you cannot even find them. But
no, except with a microscope maybe, but
yeah,
they'll have to be very powerful. Yeah.
The other question is about this upper part here.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen in the picture of, I think it was one of the first exhibition, maybe it was Converge 45 or something like that, that it was straightened.
It was what?
It was flat. This was not existing. I mean, it's a detail. But because the question is, I'm thinking, do you remember I was thinking about an exhibition, a way to exhibit in a better way the flag and stop putting some, not staples, but
nails or
pins. And put a not a punctual system, but like a line there, so that it could be less dangerous for the objects. So my question is, do you mind if I flatten this part, just to put to put in the new system, the new exhibition system on the back?
What would that consist of? What would you be putting on the back? A piece of tape?
A what?
Like a fabric, a belt, or a piece of fabric tape?
Yeah, not really tape, but it would be, the system that we thought about was a magnet system.
Oh yeah.
So the idea is to put a textile on the back, a band, and to put inside this band the magnet. And it's easier for the people that are doing the exhibition to put it on the wall. And and it's like invisible because it's in the back.
But would the top be like a super straight line?
No, I don't want it to be super straight, but it would be straightened. Like the picture you sent me from the exhibitions, it's a bit all the time stuck on the wall, right?
Right.
So I want to follow this idea of the flags as like stuck in the wall, on the wall.
Right. Right. And so you would be sort of strengthening the top.
Yeah.
But I just don't want it to be like a really straight line, because
Okay.
that wouldn't conform to the other edges.
Okay.
It's, you know, because it's supposed to look very organic.
Yeah.
And even on the left side with the grommets,
Yeah.
that's already a double, you know, like that's a double band, but it's still kind of crooked.
Yeah, indeed. No, actually, the back system, the exhibition system, is supposed to be totally invisible, and I don't want it to
Okay.
be like a, I don't want it to be like a painting or anything like this. I want to leave the, well, I want to leave it like organic, as you said. So yeah, the other question I had is, I really don't know how to say it in English, but I wanted to put a transparent textile on the back. So I don't know if it has a name in English, probably. In French, it's doublure. It's like, and I wanted to put it on the back, but only on the zones, on the upper zone and on the side zones.
Why do you want to do that?
Because it's going to be easier then to straighten the flag, and the tensions would be less important on the flag, but the tensions would go on this textile on the back. Because this textile would be sewed to the magnetic installation. So,
well, the transparent textile, would that be magnetic?
No, it would be normal. It would be polyester toile. So.
Okay, and then how would you hang it? Would you put like a magnet on the front?
So I would sew this transparent textile to the back of the flag, and then to this textile I would fix the magnetic system
on the sides.
Yes.
How thick would how wide would the transparent textile be?
It's really transparent, but honestly it's a bit white, so that's why I really wanted to put it on the smallest part as I can. So basically on the top, maybe it would be 10 centimeter, you know, and on the side. The problem is that, for example, here we would see it, but if it's hanged on a white wall, it's invisible. But then if it's hanged on a gray wall, it's not invisible.
That's not good. Can you make it? Can you cut it and make it more narrow?
Like to put it like that we do not see it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do it, but that was my question, because what would be for me perfect for the piece is that I do it a bit wider, and that here, for example, we can see it. But if we hang it on a white wall, it's fine. So my question was, do you think we could, like, when we give the piece to a museum, we ask them if they can hang it in a white wall or clear painted wall?
Okay, but you know, there are many different kinds of white.
Yeah.
And so I'm afraid you would see it.
Yeah. Because yeah, I think you understood it's to permit the conservations to be better and easier for the institution to exhibit first and to manipulate.
Yes.
Because nowadays, every time we manipulate the flag, it's really dangerous for it, because there are pieces falling, and even if I know that it's the meaning of the piece and that's not a big deal if we lose some pieces of cotton, I mean, the institution, the Frac Lorraine, really wanted to make it easier to lend, you know.
Okay, yeah, I understand. And for the Frac Lorraine, lending is paramount. It's the point.
Yeah.
They are there to lend.
Yeah.
I think it's a conservator's nightmare, right?
Yes, a bit, but it's a really nice thesis exercise, you know.
Yeah, good for you.
It's good for me.
I'm really appreciating that someone is taking the time to think about all these details. It's very helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very nice also for me, but at some point I was just like, why did I choose this? It's too big and too there is nothing that I can, I mean, I cannot put any, I mean, it's only du vide, it's only, there is nothing. So,
Right.
but yeah, but
Right.
it's really nice.
Good.
Yeah, so you can see?
No, it doesn't. Oh, wow. Look at that.
So first it was like this.
Uh-huh.
And then during winter time it was like protected. Here I was making the warm compost.
Yeah.
And then when it was, so now it's like this. Well, it was like this a week ago.
Uh-huh.
So working quite well. You see the worms are huge. They're really fat.
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic.
And then I added more, and yeah, it's working really well. Now I went to see, and there is like, from this picture, all this part is eaten.
Wow.
So they are working really well. It's spring here, and
They're working very hard for you.
yes, they're really nice to me. Yeah. But then I know it's not the purpose of the piece. It's just that now that it's in a museum, we have to deal with the artist's intention, but at the same time, the conservation things. So that's why this is super interesting for me, because I'm really in the middle of these two actors. So yeah. But yeah, I know we don't have the same problematics. It's just that it's in a museum, so they want to keep the original, you know.
That makes sense. I really appreciate it. It's great.